welcome to episode 2 of The Breakdown. You excited, Dave?
We already did it.
We already did it, yeah. Okay, so we're just walking in right now. Both of us have actually completed our sessions about 10 days ago, approximately. So the sessions have already been fished. What we're doing now is just going back in together so we can do a recap and tell each other how we did. Where I lost you, Dave. There you are.
It's a narrow path here.
It's a very narrow path. So yeah, I don't know how Dave did on his session. He doesn't know how I did on mine. We don't know what kind of conditions we were facing. Anything. We're gonna find all that out tonight.
Low bridge.
Low bridge. Oh, I'm stuck. There we go. So we're just getting into the swim now. We're gonna get set up, get a couple lines in for the evening, and we'll bring you along while we talk about how our sessions went, what went down, who succeeded, who didn't. Everything we're gonna go over very soon. Excited?
Let's get the lines in.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I want to find out how you did.
Let me tell you a little bit about this spot before I start getting things ready. Because I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. The water's up, so where I was planning to be set up to fish the way I want to fish, it's underwater right now. I do expect that water to drop, but I don't know when, because I've never been here this early in the morning. I have fished this body of water before, but about 1,500 meters that way. In the shallowest part of the lake. Back there it's like 3 feet deep, and we only really fish it late spring, early summer when all the little fish just go nuts. And it's just a good smash up. Today I'm fishing a brand new area of this lake that I've never actually fished before. I've always wanted to try and figure out how to get over to this whole section because it looks so much better. And I didn't know how to get in here. So back in November, my son and I came for a walk so I could show him that spot. And we just kept walking, and we found a bunch of trails, and they brought us out to what we found at the time was about 6 new swims that we didn't know about that give us complete access to this whole section of the lake and this massive weedy bay just to my right, so behind the camera. So this is kind of like a point swim. You've got the main body of the lake over here that slowly goes shallower that way. It goes slightly deeper out to the right and across because there's a flow about 250 yards out. There's a flow that goes across the channel behind those islands over there. And we have this massive weedy bay to the right. So this has the potential of having a lot of different options for casting and fish holding, fish patrolling, fish feeding. I don't know, just everything about it screams to me that the fish should be here. The question is, when do they turn on? We're mid-April. Just this past week, the muck started coming up off the bottom, as it does every spring in all of our waters around here. You know, and they all do it at different times depending on when the temperature gets up. Temperature's been in the mid to high 20s all week. Yesterday I was fishing on the big lake off the beach in shorts, as I am today, and we cooked. Definitely a lot of windburn and sunburn on my face from yesterday. So there's a lot of great things about this location that just screams big hit of fish. The average size fish in this water body, I would say, is going to go between 8 and 12 pounds. That's the average. We definitely do get a few of them bigger way down there, and there's always rumors of a 30 that comes out just about every year. The downside is that there's a lot of catch and keep anglers that fish other sections of the lake. And I think a lot of those big fish that come through don't get to stay very long. It's unfortunate, but Some people just don't think about the idea of putting back the brood stock so that we always have the good, big, healthy fish breeding and, keep the younger fish to eat. But anyway, I'm rambling. I had a game plan, and I changed it. Then I had another game plan, and I changed it again. I can't make up my mind on how I want to fish this swim. I stopped in after work on Wednesday. That's when I noticed that all the muck was lifting off. And you'll be able to see out there at different points of the day, it's still drifting around on the surface, so it's still lifting. It hasn't fully come up, which means there's going to be very minimal weed growth on the bottom out there. With that, I think the fish are going to be just cruising. I don't think the fish are going to be staying put or really holding up anywhere. With that said, I could be completely wrong. So my original plan was solid bags. Just make up a bunch of solid bags, have them pre-tied, put them out there, and every couple of hours move them. When I came here on Wednesday to look around and just make sure everything was going to be in order so that I could come out and do this session, seeing all the muck on the water, I thought, pack bait might be the way to go. That gets out there, kind of breaks up on the surface, and as it hits the bottom, it makes a wider bed of bait to kind of cover up any of that muck that's still lifting, just to kind of combat what's happening. Now it looks like I've got a lot more open water because the wind has pushed the muck around, and with the wind coming from left to right, so south to northwest, coming across me here, all of this muck looks like it's going to push right into that weedy bay. Given where the water is in the swim, I can't get over to there to get a cast that way, and I really wanted one rod over there. So I kind of cut out the plan of solid bags, cut out the plan of pack bait, because I definitely didn't want to mix pack bait, and I just didn't bring anything out with me. Stripped all the gear out to just what I can carry, still managed to forget the tripod, so you're actually hanging on a tree right now. So filming today is going to be interesting. Fishing is definitely going to be interesting, because I can't even get to the edge of the water, like where the swim drops at this point. I think what I'm going to have to do is just get 3 rods out with singles. Just 3 bright singles. The water's gin clear. 3 singles just out on random spots. Nothing, no plan in particular. Just get them out there. Kind of set everything else up. Look around at a few other spots in the swim to see if I can get rods through. Yeah, it's going to be a good day. I've got probably got 6 or 7 hours to pull this off and see how it goes, and then we'll have to see how Dave does. I whacked out 3 singles just with little tiny bags of, just mesh bags of crushed cold water green beast boilies. I'm gonna give it half an hour to an hour with just these singles out, just to see if the water's going to draw back a ways. Because ideally, where the tips of my rods are is where I actually want the pod to be sitting, but that's in 6 inches of water. Typically, I wouldn't mind even without boots, but water's still kind of cold, and I was in the water yesterday, so I don't want to deal with that. So if anything, I think today's theme for me is just deal with circumstances as you have to, whether you have a plan or not. I could still do solid bags. I can do singles with boilies thrown out over them. I kind of came prepared for either of those scenarios. But I haven't seen any fish yet. When I was scouting here on Wednesday, along that line of flow, about 250 yards out, I saw 2 rises. There's no way I could reach those fish. Even if I was here with my 13 footers, I don't have the casting room in this swim to even come close. So I'm really banking on the fish being over here. The wind is pushing kind of across the front of this bay. So my thoughts are, if any of these fish that move in and around this bay, they're going to come up and go right across this margin in front of me. But I think they'll be out a little bit. I have no idea how deep it is out here. I haven't let it around. I typically don't do that. And this drifting muck and slime that's coming up off the bottom is coming in a perfect line along the wind's edge, which is pinging off my lines. So, yeah, conditions have kind of thrown my game plan for a shit, to be honest with you. But we're going to make the most of it. We're going to try and adapt through the morning. Adapt? There's a T on the end. Adapt. We're going to adapt through the morning and see if we can just at least make this a successful session and get a fish or 2. At this point, really all I can do is take the time to observe, see if I see any shows. If I see any shows, I'm going to I'm going to reel in and put a rig right on them, and kind of go from there. So it's kind of weird and frustrating as this is, I'm actually really excited at the chance of getting a fish out of this spot, because I'm equally excited to try all the other swims. That was the muck drifting into my line, and it pulled the line out of the line clip on the rod. Got the heart pump in there. Yeah, I'm equally excited to try the other swims in this area that my son and I found. And I did bring Dave here for a walk in March, so over a month ago, so he could see the potential in this area, and he's just as excited as well. So I'm going to leave these out, I'm going to drink my coffee, and I'm going to kind of just spend the time watching, looking to see if I see any fish. And I think that's how I'm going to do the first half of this session, is just try to adapt to any kind of visual cues. And if that gets us a bite, then that can probably put us on a game plan. excited. I'm gonna drink my coffee, I'm gonna relax, get this session underway. Okay, just saw my first sign of life in the swim, just behind me, kind of under this, this would be the corkscrew willow kind of tree. Just on the edge of that, in the reeds, something just stirred in the reeds. Potentially a muskrat, but I think it was a fish, right in that weed line there. There are other species in here. There are some bass in here, and there are some catfish, I believe, but predominantly it's carp here. And it was like right at the edge of the reed, something just stirred, just as I was walking back to my chair. So just in the margin there, I've put a few crushed boilies. It's too deep for me to see them on the bottom. It's probably 3 feet deep right there at the edge, because I can see them go down about this far and then gone, but the water's clear. So all I'm going to be watching for there is periodically I'm going to look and see if there's any bubbles or if the water gets muddy. I know it's a relatively silty bottom here, so if that spot starts to mud up or cloud up, then I know there's a fish on it, and I'll put a rig there. I didn't really expect there to be much in the way of margin fishing here, but if there's the potential for that, I want to do it. I really do love getting them in the edge. It gives me something more to go on than just bombing 3 out like I have, but I'm gonna go back to my coffee and eat my breakfast and watch for any more signs. I'll keep you updated. Little update now. It's 10 to 10 in the morning. Not gonna lie, I thought I would have had a couple of fish by now. The state of the swim is not what I hoped for when I arrived. Now it's absolutely beautiful. It's comfortable. I don't have anything drifting into my line. The wind is pretty good coming in this way. I don't know. I definitely got it wrong. I should have brought the spot and the bucket, even though it would have been a lot of extra weight to carry all this way in here. It's just not practical for the barrow. You can't get it through these trees to get down into the swim. I'd have to keep the barrow up there like 15 yards away. But I should have carried the bucket and the spod rod, and I should have spotted particle out there, put a big bed of bait out, put all 3 rods on one big bed of bait. Should have done that, and I didn't. I think the odds are still such that I should be able to get a bite. But I really should have done something to get a group of fish on me instead of just kind of casting out and hoping for passing fish, which is what my whole game plan was. Whether it be solid bags or what I'm doing now with singles and boilies and the occasional PBA stick. Just casting to shows, casting out to where I think fish are going to pass through and try and pick them off as they're passing by. It's kind of what I've settled into as a game plan, which kind of was what I wanted to do initially. But 100% this should have been build a big bed of particle, maize, hemp seed, boilies, and just put all 3 rods right out to it. Just had a bald eagle fly over the swim. I watched it coming at me and I couldn't get the other camera on in time. It flew right over the swim, right over my head, so much so that I could look up and I could actually see his eyes moving as he looked down, like he just kind of twisted his head and looked down at me as he went over. It was pretty amazing. But if that bald eagle just flew over the shallows right here and didn't drop on a fish, then it clearly didn't see one. Part of myself is kind of kicking me for not moving. I could have gone back down to the shallows to the area that I know, where I may have found some fish. I could have gone in to the bay, into one of the other swims that are new, first thing this morning to avoid all the muck and potentially get on to a group of fish that might be tucked back in that bay. Instead, I'm kind of just staying here fishing a big flat of open, structureless bottom, hoping for a straggler. Oh well, I got hours left, so I'm gonna keep at it. It's getting warm. The sun might help. I need a fish to show itself. I need something to give away its position. And then I can make adjustments from there. As it stands right now, I feel like I'm completely blind and just kicking myself for making the choices I made. Oh well. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes since I spoke to you last. I don't know how well you can see this line, but straight out, about 70 yards, maybe 80 yards, full on breach, big bosh splash. I've got my 10-footers with me, so they're not really great casting rods as far as like trying to reach distance, punch it out there. But my middle rod has a helicopter rig on it with the distance sled, so I think that's probably my best chance. I've hit 80 yards with these rods in that kind of setup before. So I might have to pull in my right hand rod and adjust it, but I'm going to recast that middle rod straight in line with where I saw that show. Kind of see in the distance there's a bridge there. It's right in line with from the right, so my right facing this way, the third pylon holding the bridge up, the third pillar. It was right on that, about 70 to 80 yards. Let's get that middle rod over there right away. First cast was way off, both distance and direction. Second cast, good line, but I'm probably 10 or 20 yards short. I don't know. My casting wasn't that great yesterday either, but I still caught. Well, I'm in kind of the general vicinity, so I'm gonna get the throwing stick. I'm gonna put some more boilies out over that area as well, just to get a little bit of bait in there at that distance. And if there's one, there's got to be more. So hopefully we can get into bite. That's the that rod's a helicopter setup with a Ronnie rig on a boom that I got from Carp, carp.com. I'll put a little I'll put the web address on the screen now. But that's one of Toronto James's rigs, and I've caught with that rig already. I had a couple nice fish on the river about a month ago. So even though I'm not a fan of the Ronnie rig, it worked, and so I've got that one out there, and that's the Tiger Nut and Corn pop-up from DT Baits, the new one. I haven't caught on those ones yet, just got them. So let's get some boilies around. Okay. Alright, now that's recording. And yeah, I got a fish on. I gotta get one of my nets out from under the brawly here. Okay, that little net's not gonna cut it. How do I get the other one? Oh man, that was carnage. So I brought two different nets with me. I brought my big net for obviously larger fish. And I brought my tiny net, kind of like my Matchman's pan net, for any tiny fish. Because it's a brand new net and I wanted to put a fish in it. So I had just noticed an indication on the right-hand rod, and it turns out that it was a whack on the left shaking the whole pod, and the left-hand rod just ripped around. Banana pop-up with a stick just cast into open water to the left. No shows, no signs, no nothing over there. And that's a decent fish. That's a mid-double. So I would say it's on the high end of average for what comes out of this place. or what I've caught out of this place. Definitely a high end of average. Yeah, there was no chance of that going in the little net. We got a fish. Okay, so I got the mat. I'm gonna get things set up here, and we'll get a look at it. Happy days. All right, let's get a look at this fish. I don't know how the light's gonna be, I'm sorry. I had to put the brawly up because the sun's getting a little bit too intense. Just found 2 pop-ups in the net here. One of them is from yesterday. One of them is from today. Set down. Okay, I'll get you back in a second. Oh! He just whacked me in the nuts with his tail, got all slimy. Bit here. Look at that. That's a nice mid double. Good little scrap on it. Yeah, I can't complain. That's a great fish. For the first fish out of a new swim. And knowing that it is kind of the higher end of average for this location or this body of water, I'm really happy with that. Really happy. I am going to set up to take a quick picture. I'm going to get this rod back out, and hopefully we can make this happen again. Nothing else has happened. No activity on the lines, but I have recast 2 rods. The right hand rod, I have been hearing shows in the bay to my right where the wind is blowing into and where the sun is definitely pounding into. I've been hearing shows along the far margin over there like crazy, like just full on Bosches out probably every 15-20 minutes. It'll go for like 4 or 5 Bosches and then quiet for like half an hour. Then 4 or 5 Bosches, quiet for half an hour. So there's definitely some fish that are moving around back in there. But I'm not moving the swim because the challenge is to do the best I can in this swim and then have Dave do the same. But there is a swim back in there, so the next time I'm here I'm going to go in that spot. So I was able to get the right hand rod cast over these reeds kind of to the middle of that bay, and then I kind of stopped it mid-air, let it go tight so I could swing the line around the edge of the reeds. So playing a fish will be interesting to get it over here, but I have a line going right into the middle of that bay without any obstruction to the rod tip, so that's good. There's been nothing happening to that middle rod that I cast to that show earlier. The swan keeps coming back and working that whole area off this sunken point. And I was just looking out to the left. Basically, if I was standing like right at the back of my pod and looking straight out from it, I saw another show. Just looked like a back come out, swirl under the surface, and that was it. But that was closer. It was probably about 60 yards. So I've brought in the middle rod with the Ronnie and the Tiger Nut and Corn pop-up, and I've put it on the spot where that rise was. We'll see if that does anything. Okay, that was just seconds ago that I just spoke to you and put the camera off. And the left-hand rod has just freaking melted off again. Fish number 2 in the net. I'm gonna get this rod back out first before we look at them, because if they're moving around over there, I want to get another rig on them. Okay, fish number 2. I think the bite cam actually shut down before that run. So I don't think I got the run, but it was just as savage as the first one. Just a complete rip around to the side. Now this fish has like a parasite or something. There's something huge growing in on its side. So much smaller. Definitely uglier on this side, but still a nice little torpedo of a fish. This came to the banana pop-up on the German rig over to the left. Being in the shade makes it really difficult to play with the light here. I'm calling it quits. It's 2 o'clock or just after 2 o'clock. I don't know. I was on the phone for like half an hour with my mother, and then I was just on the phone with my wife, and yeah, my attention wasn't on the fishing for like the last hour, but nothing else has happened. The fish stopped boshing over in the bay. I've seen a few out in open water towards where I've been casting, but nothing's happened. It's gotten quite hot, so I'm gonna call this session for me finished. I've had 2 fish. I definitely could have done things smarter and more efficiently, better planned. I didn't. So this will be interesting to see how Dave manages things here. Now the important part of this whole breakdown thing is that we don't know what the other person has had as far as success or circumstances goes. I've given him 2 instructions. I'm just going to get this out of the way now. Because of the full sun here and how bright and sunny and hot it's going to be for him, I did let him know to get some sort of shade or sunscreen to have with him. That's just a safety thing. And second, I told him just make sure he runs 3 rods, because I ran 3 rods, just to kind of keep things the same. Beyond that, everything else he does is going to be his plan, and we'll see what his results are next. I'm out.
Okay, I'm sitting in my kitchen here trying to get ready for episode number 2 of the breakdown, and I've only had a couple sessions so far this year. They've all been blanks. I fished kind of my big fish spot, and it was a little bit early. I went out to the lake, Lake Ontario, with some of the CCS members for a bit of a social, and I blanked there before I went into work, but I did end up trying out something a little bit new. I got myself some leader material, and I've tied myself up some leaders here, just to protect myself against some of the snags that I fish in my big fish spot. So today I'm gonna use these leaders. I'm gonna use the same helicopter setup for the breakdown today. Gonna mix together some panko, some oats, some salt, and I'm gonna crush up some boilies, and I'm gonna use that in the rocket feeder here. I'm gonna clip that on here to the end of my leader, and then I'm going to tie my hook link, attach my hook link onto here. Fish it helicopter style. When I was fishing the lake, I was using a snowman rig with the stiffer boom section here to a Ronnie rig, and I didn't have any luck with that. But I do like the stiff boom section, and I do like the Ronnie rig. But in years past, I find fishing with the Ronnie rig is really streaky, where I catch a ton of fish, and then the next session I go out and I have a lot of hook pulls. So I was watching a video last night with Henry Lennon. And then I did a bit of a YouTube search, and I found that Dan Hawks does this as well. But I tied up the same sort of deal with a stiff boom, some quarter crimps and all that, the Ronnie swivel, some shrink tubing. Oh, that's not the one. But same deal, stiff hook link, crimps, Ronnie swivel, shrink tubing, and then I have a little D section on the back of the hook here. It kind of behaves almost like a multi-rig. So this is going to be like a slip D Ronnie. I'm going to put some pop-ups on here. the guys, Dan and Henry, they seem to think that the extra movement on the of the hook bait on the back of the shank of the hook is somehow going to improve the hook holds, or maybe make it more difficult for the fish to eject, as opposed to having the micro ring swivel right on the shank of the hook, like this is here. So hopefully that will help with my hookup ratio / landing ratio tomorrow. When I was fishing the lake, I had kind of a longer hook length. I've shortened up the hook length a little bit here. Hopefully, my idea behind that is when all the rig kind of presents itself down on the bottom, I'm hoping that the pop-up, will kind of present itself near the bait rocket here, so there'll be a lot more attraction, scent and that in the water near the hook bait for the fish. So, and I believe it's going to be a silty bottom, so that's why I've kind of opted for pretty much straight pop-up rigs here. And the salt, I'm just going to experiment with a little bit of salt. There's a few guys out there claiming that salt is kind of a key feature that fish are potentially looking for in the spring. So with all that said, that's pretty much my approach is going to be tomorrow. I'm going to go out today. I don't trust my camera gear. I've got a lot of new camera gear that I've kind of purchased recently. I just want to make sure all the memory cards and everything are functioning before something special happens tomorrow and then I don't have access to it because there's a corrupt file or a bad memory card or whatever. So, alright, we got all the boring stuff out of the way. Almost like clockwork, the camera shut out on me there. So I got all the boring stuff out of the way. Hopefully there's no other camera issues. I'm going to go out to the water today, just reacquaint myself with it. John and I popped out there a couple of weeks ago in the spring, and just to size it up for episode 2 here, and it looked like it was going to be a good place. I got to choose the location for episode 1, so it's only fair that John chose the location for episode 2. Okay, I haven't really left myself much time to figure anything out today, but I grabbed my spod rod, put a little bait rocket on the end of it, and which is just like a lead with a cage on it, and I've just been kind of fan casting really quick. I don't know what I got myself into here. I can't even feel my lead down. It hits the water and then there's nothing. It feels like there's like a big clay flat, giant clay flat here, very shallow. I'm gonna have to bring my marker float back maybe, and tomorrow hopefully find maybe a deeper spot. If I can't find a deeper spot, I think there's a bit of a weed edge out there. I might just try to kind of place some rigs along the weed edge, but my confidence is not super high at the moment. I haven't been here that long. Maybe I'll see some shows or something to go off of for tomorrow. But this is way shallower than I expected, and which might be good for warmth if the fish are willing to push up here. But it's actually very shallow, extremely shallow. There's a swan out like 40 yards from shore, and it looks like he's feeding on bottom. I don't really want to get into a distance casting kind of situation, but it might come to that. The weather's been super awesome, like 20 degrees almost every day, and then for like a week, and then 2 days ago the temperature went down to like 2 degrees with like ice pellets, and then the wind has been kind of swirling around. Then last night I think it went down to 4 degrees, and the wind has constantly been changing directions. Tomorrow it's supposed to warm up a bit, which is nice for comfort. I don't know if it's really going to help the fishing because the wind has been coming from different directions every day. So yeah, I can't really hope that the wind is going to be a helpful. I don't think it's going to be coming from a helpful direction tomorrow. The clarity is a little bit better than I anticipated, so that might make the fish really skittish. They might not want to push up this far in the shallows. I hope I didn't get boxed into a swim that's not really going to produce. We'll have to figure something out. I know, I'm pretty sure Johnny toughed it out. Whether he caught or not, I have no idea. I thought this was going to be way more straightforward than this. But he did say it was a full sun spot. So maybe there'll be some fish cruising back here. I might just have to anticipate their patrol routes and maybe get one rod in a patrol route, one out deep, and then one on a weed edge or something. I haven't really formulated a. Can't see my breath, so it's not too bad out today. Maybe 5 degrees at the moment. I'm gonna watch the water. I think that I'm sure I'll change my mind tomorrow, but I might have to anticipate a patrol route, maybe find some deeper water, and then have one on a weed edge or something. But I haven't found any features. I don't really have much to go off at the moment. There is a bay off to the right of me, but if it's only inches deep, then I don't know if that's really going to be a feature to really focus on. They might push up there at night. I don't know. I guess that's all part of the breakdown. We didn't really do our homework, I guess, when we picked this spot. We just kind of went off of visuals. But I'm really uncomfortable with how shallow this is. It's actually killing me a bit, not knowing if John caught or not. It'd be nice to know if there was a sweet spot, or if there was an approach, or if there was a technique that produced for him. I hope he caught, because I don't feel confident at all. And I've probably said that 2 or 3 times already, but I have not found any features. It is literally just a shallow mud puddle, or clay puddle, but I haven't seen anything come up other than the swan. So I think I'll, like I said, I think I'll just put out just a light scattering of bait in the shallows. I feel like there's a bit of a undefined, loosely defined weed edge out maybe 30 yards, 25 yards. That might be an area that I focus on. I cast it out into the little shallow bay, and if it's actually really shallower than in front of me, but it feels like it has a little more pebbly kind of bottom to it. But again, not nearly deep enough that I think that fish are just going to hang out there. And I bombed a couple out there really far, and I wasn't able to feel the lead down, so I think it's really shallow out far too. I might have to try again tomorrow with the marker float. But this the tip on this rod that I've been using as a spot rod, it might be just a little bit spongy to feel the lead down. Plus I'm I'm getting a bit of a bow in my line from the cross breeze, but I don't think it's any deeper than 2 feet. I think it's probably less than that, but we'll figure that out tomorrow with the marker float. Yeah. I might have to make the bait a bit of a feature. I don't want to put a lot in, but outside of that, I don't have much to go off of. Okay, when I first got here this morning, there was some Canada geese in the margins, and I think they were cleaning up the corn that I put out yesterday before I left. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm just gonna mix up my pack bait real quick for the rocket feeders. Mostly panko today. Made up a bunch of boilie crumb. Yesterday. A little bit of oats. And we're gonna go for fun. Gonna go heavy on the sea salt. Get this all mixed up. When I got down here, that I don't know, some sort of swan sanctuary down here, but the same swan that I filmed out at distance, eating off the bottom, he was back there again. So since I have absolutely nothing to go off of, really, I might cast over one rod to where that goose was, where he keeps feeding. Just kind of blindly cast it out there. I'm gonna put one where I put the bait yesterday at that loose weed edge. The third rod, not sure. Hopefully I'll see some fish surface or something in the meantime and have something better to go off of. But the third rod might just get bombed out there. I don't even think I'm gonna bother with the marker float, because I don't think there's enough of a depth change out there to really make a difference, to be honest. So this is packing together nicely. It should break down quickly. It's got lots of scent. This is going to be the pack bait today. Pineapple boilies, panko, oats, and salt today. I topped up the corn with the catapult when I first got here, so I'm just gonna get the rods out and touch base shortly. Okay, we got the lines out. The middle rod's been having a bit of activity. It's the only rod and they're all at the same sensitivity, so we'll have to see how that works out. But so off to the right, where I saw the swan having a munch, I got the CC Moore acid pear pop up. Off to the left in the margin, I got the spotted fin, pineapple, and butyric acid. And then straight out front, I have the DT baits, tiger nut and corn pop up. So they're all slightly different colors. If I catch a couple on one versus the other, then maybe I'll double up the lines in that area or something. But until I have something definitive to go off of, get to sit on my hands for a little while. Maybe I'll text John and let him know that I finally got my rods in. So I got just under 4 hours to fish. I have a bit of an extra walk. When I first got here, they were scraping the parking lot where I was planning on parking, and they told me I couldn't park there, so I had to walk like a crazy person through a subdivision, carrying my rod sack and pulling my wagon full of all of this miscellaneous gear and stuff that looks pretty foreign to the average person. So the wind I thought was supposed to be at my back. It's kind of coming over, just pushing off at like 2 o'clock kind of direction from over my back. Yeah, some more indication on the middle rod there. There's a little bit of that muck that John probably would have referred to it. He seems to think this spot switches on when the muck kind of pops up off the bottom and starts floating around on the surface. So the muck is up, the sun is up, the wind is down, my lines are in, and I'm gonna go have a bite to eat. I just had my first show. It's a bit of a distance where the fish came up, but it's about the only thing I've had to go off of. I think I'm gonna sit tight for now, but if I see anything else in that area, or if I don't see anything else, then I'll probably end up casting over to that spot that the fish breached. I'll show you the muck that's coming up. So I don't know if there's like gases being released from the bottom or whatever that's pushing that up, but if you look back in John's older videos, he fishes the opposite end of this piece of water basically, or not the opposite end, but a fair distance from here, and he feels confident that he'll catch once the muck starts coming up. So I know he's caught in worse conditions. I sent him a quick text message to see if the contours of this area were similar to the mud beach spot, and it seems that they're kind of similar. So I ended up watching both of those videos last night to try to figure out if they said how deep it was, and I don't think that they did, but I'm feeling a little more confident now. I don't want to fish at range, but I may end up having to bomb one out there and try to put one on top of that fish. It's just creeping up on 12 now. I haven't seen any other shows or anything to go off of. I think most of the indication on my middle rod, if not all the indication, is just I think it's catching the most wind out of the 3 rods, so it was tough to pick up the pattern, but I've been watching it long enough now, and I'm pretty sure it's just the wind catching it. I didn't eat earlier, so I'm gonna get around to that now. I'm glad I brought the salt for the baiting situation, because I like to put a little salt on my cottage cheese. I was a little lazy, and this is gonna be my breakfast and lunch today. So I got, I don't think I have 2 hours left. I'll figure out if I'm going to make any changes or anything after I get a little food in my belly. I don't want to blank, I don't want to blank 2 breakdowns in a row. So hoping for something good to happen pretty soon. Okay, I got about an hour left before I gotta start packing down. I gotta be out of here in less than an hour and a half in order to get my daughter from school. I don't have any excuses if I don't catch. I've seen a lot of birds around today. I can hear the frogs are awake. I saw a bunch of midges yesterday. That's one of my carpiest things that I like to see, is just kind of the cyclone of the midges along the shoreline of Lake Ontario when you're cruising along the service road. That just screams carp to me. I haven't seen the cyclones yet, but the midges are up and about. I've opted not to do any recasts. I've opted not to cast to that showing fish. Are these going to be mistakes? I don't know. I haven't introduced any more bait. I do like this swim. It's got a great location. It's nice and comfortable. Be a great place to bring the kids in that. There's just not a heck of a lot of features at all. I don't know if John found anything at distance. I don't know if there would be a benefit for me to try to fish at range at this point. I hope John caught. Because I'd hate for you guys to have to sit around and watch the 2 of us blank. I got an hour left. I probably should have given myself some more time, but it is what it is. This is a really relaxing spot. It's really nice here. But it'd be nice to put a fish on the bank before I go, but if I don't, that's the way it goes. Especially when you're checking out new spots. I really wanted to fish my big fish spot, but this isn't a good wind today for my big fish spot, and at least it gives me a chance to try out my leaders and test out some of my camera equipment a little bit more before I start chasing the giants. But I think it's really good to push yourself and try new spots. I don't really think I became a decent carp angler until the Fishing Canada Carp Cup back a few years ago, where you were forced to be in a certain swim and you had to make it work, and you were under the pressure of getting results against other anglers. Then you're forced to, no matter what's in front of you, to try to challenge yourself to come up with the best presentation and kind of solve the puzzle. But I haven't solved the puzzle here as of yet. Maybe it isn't meant to be solved. Maybe this isn't the greatest spot. I don't know. But maybe when I compare notes with John, maybe camera shut off again. But maybe when I compare notes with John, then maybe I'll have a better picture of if I had any missteps. Anyways, I really like how this is coming together. I hope you enjoy the breakdown, even though there hasn't been a lot of fish from my end so far, but we'll have some more breakdowns. I'm kind of more comfortable fishing visually, like a transition between rock and silt, or a weed edge, a drop off, current break, like something that just tells me that I'm in the right area. And there's not a heck of a lot of anything to go off of here. Thankfully that swan didn't pick up my my acid pear hook bait there, or that would have been a disaster. I was doing my best to scare him off. Anyways, gonna go sit down and watch for some shows, and maybe pick off a quick fish before I gotta go. But I definitely getting closer to having another breakdown as opposed to solving this puzzle. I was in the middle of packing down and sulking, and the rod I had pretty much the least confidence in went off. My left margin rod with the spotted fin, pineapple, and butyric acid boilie's gone off. I got a fish in the net. I don't have a lot of time to celebrate with this fish. I have to kind of be on my way. But this certainly didn't hurt the episode, and hopefully future breakdowns will have more fish, but it was nice to put one on the bank finally. I'm going to get this guy out, and then I got to finish tidying up. the wind just kind of finished doing a 180-degree turn, and all the muck that was kind of flowing to my right is now flowing to my left. So I don't know what the weather guys were thinking, but nothing's really happened the way they said it was going to happen today. But got the fish in the net, and gotta look at my watch real quick and see how much time I have. Okay, got the first fish of the year. My first fish of the year, and my first breakdown fish. Fish is nailed right in the bottom lip. So no issues with the hook hold, that's for sure. My pack bait didn't break down as much as I had hoped. Get this fish up here. Not much of a fight either, he's kind of cold. Take picture. Smile. 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 All right. We got my breakdown fish, and it's kind of a typical fish for this piece of water. This is probably right on average, maybe 10 pounds or so, 11 pounds maybe. But and these fish are typically like a little bit damaged, but this guy's gonna go back no worse for wear. Anyways, pressure's off. It's gonna be a lot easier to go home now with the fish on the mat, and at least I got something to talk to John about, as opposed to what I coulda, shoulda, or would have done differently when I broke down this swim. I don't know if it was just a question of the sun and the wind kind of pushing the better water this way, or if it was just a fluke, but I don't have time to wait around for a second or a third. I gotta get to the school and pick up my daughter. Anyways, hopefully maybe I'll get to choose the next swim for the breakdown, I'm not sure, but we got the SSF coming up, so I don't know if the next episode might not be until maybe June, but we'll see.
All right, so now you've seen both sessions. You've seen how it went for both of us, and you've seen what we've done, whether or not we've caught. But as of yet, we still don't know what happened on each of our sessions. So let's start this off, Dave. I'm going to ask you, did you fish fully the way you intended?
I pretty much. Well, no. I came out. I had a game plan in mind, but after I led it around, I was just like, what are we doing here? I didn't have any confidence whatsoever. The helicopter rigs and the method feeders and everything worked perfectly fine here, but like I was just thrown off. There was nothing definitive to really cast to, or I didn't have a bait patch. I didn't have a weed edge. I didn't have like anything to really kind of key in on. So I didn't really fish the way I envisioned, but the way I rigged up worked out fine.
Interesting. I had a similar scenario. I did not fish the way I originally intended, nor did I fish the way that I felt was best suited for this kind of spot. I completely agree. There was really nothing to key in on. I know there's a sunken point that goes out this way from us, out kind of blocking a bit of the bay.
Yep.
I did fish that point, but I had a swan pretty much on that all day. So it would take off, it'd swim away, then it would come back, and it would be feeding on anywhere that I kind of cast or put a stick. It would be right there. Now, in all fairness, I was really confident that it couldn't reach my bait.
Oh God.
But he spent so much time feeding over there, he had to have been the reason absolutely nothing happened on that rod. It got to the point where I eventually moved that rod completely, and I fished out in the open for a bit, and then I was able to blast one in the bay.
I can't believe that happened.
But yeah, really the only submerged structure we have here, I did try to key in on, but overall, my plan went for a crap. I was thinking, okay, solid bags, and I forgot my solid bags. And then I realized when I got back to the van, I did actually have them. I really feel like the best way to fish this spot, kind of looking back and kind of as things went along, would have been to just spot a crap load of bait out and fish 3 rods around a big patch of bait. I didn't do that, and kind of halfway through the session I realized that that's most likely what I think would have worked best here.
I did have a bit of bait out, but I just didn't think it was the temperature really warranted to like have a big bait patch out there or whatever, so I was kind of apprehensive about putting in too much. But
yeah, I should have done that, but I forgot the spot rod. I didn't bring a bucket of bait out because I didn't want the extra stuff to carry. I forgot my tripod. Basically, I thought I forgot my solid PBA. I didn't. I basically showed up completely unprepared for not only what I was hoping to do, but for what I really needed to do. I just wasn't ready. So I just basically kind of made do with what I had, and I fished singles over boilies that I put out with the throwing stick, and I put out a couple of PVA mesh bags, but for the most part it was singles over boilies. That's what I ended up going with for the most part, and I did see fish start to show kind of later in the morning, a few at distance out in front here, but once that sun got into the bay, that whole far margin around the edge of the bay was just, fish were crashing over there like crazy.
Really?
And I wanted to move, but because our focus was on this swim, I didn't move. I stayed here.
Wow.
So
they must have been on. Which way was the wind going?
The wind was going exactly as it is now. It was coming from our left, going across into the bay, and all the muck and slop was blowing in there. And as soon as that stuff really collected in there and it started to thin out in front, they were boshing over there. And towards the end of the session, I did end up casting over the reeds. The bomb went in there and let the wind kind of carry the bow around the reeds. And I had a rod down there. But again, the swan came in, and the swan actually went into the bay. And
Did you catch anything?
Did I catch anything?
I need to know.
I had two. But both of them were off the left-hand rod, just fishing kind of out in the open.
Yeah.
That's it, with nothing.
Where you put out your first rod?
Yes.
That's where I got my fish.
So you had a fish?
Yeah.
How many did you have?
Just one.
You had one. I had two, both of them on that spot. Mine were on banana. What was yours on?
I think it was the spotted fin, pineapple, and butyric.
Okay. So it sounds like we both came in completely unprepared and not really confident with what we were ending up having to do, yet we both caught. We seem to have caught on the same spot.
Yeah, I had one over there. I had nothing to go off of, and this swan kept feeding in the one spot. So I was like, he's eating something. There must be something there. And so I just
probably picking up boilies.
So yeah, I put one over there, and then I thought for sure he was gonna wipe out my rod.
Yeah, it never got my line, but definitely stayed on it.
I had one over here in the margin,
right,
and then I found kind of like a loose weed edge that started like maybe 40 yards out.
Oh, really?
But almost like a clean clay.
Yeah.
Like up to 30 yards out. And then like a little bit of weed started, like just like silkweed or something. So I put one there. No action other than the swan over there, and the one fish right when I was packing up over here.
Oh, right when you were packing up. Ah.
Very end of my session.
Interesting. So I had one kind of mid-morning, and then one just at the early part of the afternoon.
Well, I think I might have fished 3 or 4 hours.
Okay, I think I did 6 hours. So an interesting tidbit. Now, a lot of the footage I had of coming into the swim and my bite camera, all that footage was lost because the card got corrupted. I was using that new camera. The card got corrupted. So when you first showed up into the swim, what were the conditions like?
It was pristine. Like I couldn't tell there was anybody here.
So when I showed up, this was flooded. There was 4 inches of water all the way up to where our feet are. And where you're sitting, that was water. I was tucked right back up against the tree, and my pod was basically right where my feet are.
I was trying to figure out where you were set up, and I was just like, I can't even, it doesn't even look like anybody's been here.
It's because it was all underwater. So I had footage actually showing as I approached into the swim, it was just underwater. And I had to start back here and wait for the water to recede before I could move my rods back out. And it wasn't until I got my rods out there that I had the first fish. And then it was like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours later at the most, when I had the second fish. I had the runs on camera, but I lost that footage as well. So anybody who actually watched my session, like in this video, they'll see what the conditions were like after I was finally set up. But yeah, I walked in and it was flooded completely. It was all underwater. And I was in sneakers, so I couldn't even walk out there. I was putting boards down that I was finding washed up around.
I'm glad you caught.
I'm glad you caught as well. But yeah, that's why everything looked different, because when this water comes up, all these dog footprints and from people being in here,
that's
it
bizarre.
Just washes away completely. This, literally, this was all water here.
It's weird. It looks like it does it on occasion, but...
Yeah, you can see that probably in the wintertime it washes right up. Or if, we had a lot of rain, I imagine it comes right up. But I think through the night, this probably comes up and then drops kind of mid-morning like it did for me. Because I was here maybe a half an hour after first light. I was running behind. So again, like more stuff that...
Yeah.
I just wasn't really ready, but I made the best out of it. Sounds like you did as well.
Is that everything?
Is that everything?
Because you're like, you're saying something like it was.
Well, I kept telling you the session was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I showed up and it was underwater.
Okay.
It was interesting
for sure,
because the muck was wiping out my lines.
I thought maybe
bit.
you got into like a mess of mirrors or something crazy.
Oh, no. No, I had to kind of throw you off a little bit, but it was very interesting because I feel like I screwed up my whole session and pulled a homer and still made it work. Like you could say I goldied it, right? Like everything was kind of stacked up against me to just not get a fish.
I think if you were to do the boilie approach, like maybe 2 weeks from now or something, I think that would really work here.
I agree. We know the average size of the fish here is not that big, but there are big ones that do come in.
No, just for like.
But yeah, like food-wise, to get the fish moving around, like I did a good spread with the throwing stick at distance when I finally started seeing them show straight out.
Did you think
80
about?
yards.
Did you think about casting to the showing? Well, other than.
I did. Yeah. The one rod, once I pulled it away from the swan, that became kind of like my roving rod. And whenever I saw a show, there's a show right there. You have a rod right there.
Yeah. If I'm. Yeah.
So whenever
I think that's right where that weed edge kind of starts.
So my right hand rod's over that then, because I'm a little bit further than that.
Oh, you're the helicopter one.
Yeah. I just kind of use that one to cast around to any kind of shows, and I would throwing stick a few boilies over it. There was boilies over my rig over here, but yeah, once that one went in the left, I just didn't move that one at all. The other two I had moved around a few times.
Would you want to fish here again?
I would definitely fish here again. I think though I would go to the trouble of carrying the extra gear to bring a bucket, a spot rod, and definitely bait up a spot.
Try to stop like a pod.
Yeah, try to get a bunch of fish on a spot competing. And I would put one rod on either side of it and one maybe short.
I was so unconfident. I was not confident at all. Like, because when I was letting out, it felt like it was so shallow that I should be able to see the fish swimming. Like, that's how shallow it seems. Like, like I can't imagine there being like more than like a couple inches of water above their backs. Like, it just doesn't.
I do think that kind of where we're fishing, we're probably looking at about 3 feet of water. But I really don't think it's much more than that. I really did think that kind of as you got out further, we might be in like 5-6 feet of water. But like as I moved my rig around, I started to think like any deeper water, I think is like 200 yards out. I think it's all quite shallow.
I don't even know if there's a channel through this or not. Like,
I think there is, but I think it goes across way over there on the other side of the islands.
It would be neat to have like a hydrographic map or something, and maybe pick and choose spots on here differently. Like,
so one of the thoughts I had was that if we were like, I think pre-baiting here would be huge. I think pre-baiting would be a massive advantage.
Or maybe morning and evening kind of, or overnight.
I think an overnight session, if you took the time to build up a spot through the day, I think you'd probably crush at night. And I think they come right in the margins as well, because something did swirl just back here when I first arrived, but I was throwing boilies in the edge, and they were still there when I left.
Yeah, that was my least confident one too. Like, it was only like 25 yards out or something.
Yeah, that's where it worked for me.
25 yards. I was just like, why? I only did it because it was like the only other thing I could cover, like, or check off that the common boxes. Like,
I really did think that we would have fish kind of coming out of the bay and across here, or coming across and going into the bay.
Yeah, when I was watching all that scum floating around, like, it made me think that would be a bit of a highway of sorts.
I really thought that this was like an interception point, and I think if they're moving back and forth, I think they're probably doing it really close in, or really wide. and coming around that way. So I don't think these fish really sit much up at this end. I know that they do way back there when I fish way back there, because you'll see them on the surface when it's really sunny. They really do come up and be just under the surface back there. I didn't think that we would get that out here, but
if it's got an extra foot or two of depth over it, maybe they're just a little more comfortable hanging out there.
I think it's even shallower back there. I think it's like 2 to 3 feet back there. That's why I was really looking forward to this, because I thought it would be deeper. But like, if I were to bring the deeper sonar out, I don't think it would work, because it doesn't read it doesn't read anything under 4 feet.
Yeah, an error.
But yeah, I would definitely fish here again. I would definitely fish it differently. I would put a lot of bait out. I would try to pre-bait if I could.
Same time of year or later?
I did like fishing here early. I think once the weeds come up, because I believe this bay gets really choked with weeds. So I think up until that really starts to grow, I think the insect hatches probably generate a lot of natural food that would make these fish kind of catchable, because they'll be kind of grouped up there.
Did your fish fight, or were they kind of like, eh?
Oh, they fought. Yeah, I got good scraps out of them.
Yeah, mine was like, I think he was kind of cold. Like, it wasn't like a full-out fight or anything.
Yeah, I got a pretty good scrap out of them for being close range and relatively small fish. I think,
yeah,
between that kind of 7 to 10 pound range.
Yeah, I think mine was like a low double. I didn't actually weigh it, but
well, I'm quite happy now. Now we know the result. We've been waiting a whole week to know.
I was waiting for like different interesting thing that I kept getting hung up on.
Well, it doesn't seem that interesting now that you kind of had similar problems where you just...
But I don't know what I would have done if the whole thing was like submerged. Like, that would have thrown me for a loop.
Literally where my feet are was the edge of the water, so I was tucked right back.
So you're like, you were just casting like this?
I was actually it was... I had kind of stepped out slightly, and I cast that one out, and this one I cast over the reeds. And again, let the wind push the bow of the line out so that I could put my pod just in the edge there. Yeah. Made it work.
I can't believe you had the same goose.
The swan. Yeah.
The swan, whatever.
So that swan actually has one of its wings clipped. It can't fly.
It must have been a different... I saw one flying around.
There was 2 of them that were flying, but the one that was on my spots constantly, one of its wings was clipped, so it doesn't fly anywhere. It just swims back and forth and messes with me.
That's good.
But yeah, I still enjoyed my session after the fact. I really didn't enjoy it as it was happening, because I knew I should have done something better. And then I'm sitting there thinking, Dave's going to crush it. Dave's going to crush it.
Really?
Because I figured you would show up and it wouldn't be underwater, for starters, so you could get right out onto your spots the way you want to initially. I knew you were likely to fish with some sort of pack bait or something. So I knew that you would be a little bit more prepared with getting kind of like a bed of bait out there. And here I was fishing 3 feet of water for little fish with a throwing stick and boilies.
I only casted out my rods at once the entire session. Didn't move them. Didn't put any bait over, other than initially when I showed up. I just put a light sprinkling on the weed edge as best I could. Like that was the most reserved I think I've been in a session.
Wow. Well, dude, we both had a successful session. That's a pretty big deal.
It's good.
Now, the competitive part of me can say,
you've won 2.
I've won 2 now. Not that this is a competition or
anything.
I'm
0 for 2.
It's not a competition, but technically I've won 2. And we've got some really good other locations.
We're both winners, though, because we got
winners.
We got new swims that we could try.
That's a big deal that we've got new swims. Sitting here now, this is a very comfortable spot. It's a nice spot. It's quite quiet, except for that kid with the shopping cart and the dog. that was a little bit surprising.
Yeah.
but it's I do look forward to coming here again. Hopefully when all this muck is up off the bottom and gone and we're starting to get some actual weed growth, I think that's kind of when I want to come back.
We got a busy season ahead of us, but
We really do.
I'm kind of looking forward to wrinkling out another breakdown.
Episode 3 of the breakdown is high on my priority
Especially
list.
since it's like we're going to be headed into a time of the year where the fish are actually going to be more cooperative.
Yeah. We've got some really good locations in mind as well for future episodes.
You do?
We do.
Okay.
You know we do, because you found one of them, and I have been dreaming of that spot.
Oh, yeah. I was scouting that the other day.
I know you were, and I was jealous. I was so jealous. And see, this is all cryptic now, but the video that you told me to watch just in case it might be the same spot, I watched it. I don't think it's the same spot.
I think
it's the next bay down.
I thought it was the next one up, maybe.
Well, the next one downstream or
Upstream.
upstream? Yeah, it could be. Definitely could be.
Because you could see the one bridge in there.
Yeah.
I think if it was one bay down, you wouldn't be able to see the bridge.
Yeah.
But anyways.
So, we don't know what episode that spot's going to be. This is kind of like, yeah, I know you don't know what we're talking about, but I am most excited about trying that spot.
Because I think that particular video that you watched, I think it was the last weekend in May, or
Yeah, it was relatively early still.
and there was a lot of fish moving around there. So
I think that's going to be a really big fish spot. That's my line of thinking, is that it's
that's
a
what
big
I'm
fish spot.
hoping for. If the little ones are like the ones pushing in shallow.
Yeah, I'm really stoked for that, and we've got a few other spots in mind. So there are definitely more episodes of the breakdown coming down the pipe. I have to admit, man, doing these 2 that we've done now, even though going through this session was a little bit tougher for me, I've had a lot of fun doing these. I really, really had a lot of fun doing this.
I like making videos for the channel, and I like fishing with you, but like this is kind of like open things up a little bit, and it's exciting.
Yeah, a little bit of friendly competition, but at the same time gives people some insight into like where our head's at when a little bit of the pressure's on, right? I like it.
I'm looking forward to the next one for sure.
Me too, man. And we're gonna have to do it pretty soon. I know Saturday I'm fishing somewhere else because I got to make another video of something else. But yeah, we're gonna have to pick our 3rd location and start getting that one planned out real soon. And yeah, we'll bring you along. And that's a wrap. Where's my sandwich? Where's my sandwich?
I'm here.
I gotta pee.
John's hungry.